Welcome to the August 7th special meeting of the Meridian Library District. It is 7:01 and we are in session. I will note too that Trustee Destiny Hart is joining remotely and the rest of us are here in the room. Our first action item tonight is to update the signage on the ICCU accounts to the current officers of the board. Nick, any further details there?
No, the first two action items will be to update the signers on the accounts that we have for ICCU, and then the next one for LGIP to match our current officers of the board.
Okay, thank you. And we'll do those separately. And so the first one is the ICCU account signers. If there's no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I would move to update the ICCU account signers to the current board officers.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. And our next item is similar to this, the LGIP, which stands for, again,
Local Government Investment Pool.
thank you. I wrote it down earlier and didn't bring that note with me. So are there any discussions around this item? If not, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I would move to update the signers on the LGIP account to the current board officers.
Thank you.
I second.
And we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Let's go ahead and sign now. Is that okay, to respect your time? And not that you wouldn't want to listen to our budget discussion. That brings us to item number 3 on the agenda, a discussion about the amended fiscal year 2024 and the proposed fiscal year 2025 budgets. We discussed some of this in our last meeting, and this is a precursor for the approval to print these budgets and publish them, and then be prepared for our upcoming budget hearing later this month. So with that introduction, Nick, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so we have updated the budget to address some of the incoming pieces that we got from the L2 on Monday of this week, and then also to refine some of the amended budget pieces to get us to the most accurate numbers that we have on hand for where we're at and where we project the next month and a half of the fiscal year, and refined a little bit more with some of our capital project pieces, both Pinnacle and Cherry Lane. So what you have in front of you tonight is the legal notice that we will submit to the paper tomorrow, if you approve it, and then it will run in the Idaho Press Tribune Friday, we think, and then it'll run in the Meridian Press the following week. And then we will do the budget hearing on August 21st at 6:45 p.m. Right before our regular meeting. And we'll do a presentation of the budget at that point in time, and take public comment on it. And so tonight we're here to get the approval to publish this budget. So we are happy to answer questions. We don't have a presentation that we're going to be running through on this one since we presented a couple weeks ago. Again, this is really just fine tuning what we had presented on the 17th of July. Emma, do you have anything to add? Emma's the one who's carried all the water on this one, so.
Sure. I'm pleased with where the budgets are coming out. Our amendment this year is very clear from extra revenue received and where that revenue is going. Our expenditure categories have been nearly right on track, and they continue to do so. So I'm pleased with the way the budget's looking.
Thank you. Questions from the trustees?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just a question on the L2, updated with the L2 numbers. Did we find that was an increase over what we previously saw or a decrease on the levy amount?
It was a minimal increase. We did see a decrease to sales tax collections, so there is some impact of that on the tax line, but overall the L2 numbers remain stable.
Mr. Chair, to add to that, the state sales tax numbers were significantly down for this year for this last round of payments, and that was across the board, not just something for us. And so that impacted that number. So it was, I think their numbers overall were 20% off on sales tax, and the impact to us was 14% in terms of what we anticipated to get from it and what we ended up getting from it. There was no true explanation as to why, but that is a number that's wholly out of our control. So that's the one that we always fret about when we're doing the proposed budget for a fiscal year 2, is trying to project what those that sales tax number is going to be. I know Megan and I had talked about it at length a few years ago when we were trying to figure that out, and you can project only so much on it.
So you're saying that our projection was not, that it was down statewide, but our projection was conservative enough that it wasn't as much of an impact as the total downturn.
Correct. Yeah, we don't project at 100% from what we. So if we look at like the last 4 payments that we got from sales tax, we don't take that and say that's how much we're going to get. We try and do a trend analysis of what it's going to be, and then do a reduction on that to get a conservative number on what that revenue would be. We like to project low on revenue so that if something like this does happen, we don't have a major impact and have to cut funding, cut expenditures at the last minute.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And Nick and Emma, when we're looking at the 2024-2025 proposed budgets, property and sales tax, what is the state predicting? Because we see a bit of an increase. So I'm curious what the percentage. Well, it's not a percentage, what they're predicting.
So some of that is property tax, some of that sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are seeing, if we look at the state's projection, 2023's numbers were much different than the 3 or 4 years prior, and then the year upcoming, their current fiscal year, where they projected 2023. It's 2023, right? 2024. Sorry, the 2024 numbers were an outlier based on what the state is showing on their website and what they've published for their stuff. So we're still projecting in line with theirs, but also trying to be even more conservative with our approach to what that's going to be. And so we are seeing an increase on that top line number, but that's also the 3% increase for us to maintain our growth.
Laura, does that answer your question?
Mr. Chair, I have
Josh.
a question. And this is for Nick and Emma, I guess. And it's very basic, but I just want to make sure in my mind that I understand this correctly. The general fund and the capital projects fund are for our convenience, and we can do the shell game between those accounts. There's no overarching restrictions on the use or designation of those, or is there something that I'm not aware of?
So,
Please educate me.
Mr. Chair, Trustee, the parent replacement fund does have restrictions. It can only go towards capitalized purchases that repair or replace something. So you could use it to replace a vehicle. You could replace an HVAC system. You could renovate an existing building. You cannot use it to build a new building. You couldn't buy something that you're not replacing, essentially. But the general fund reserve is there for us to have as a carry through because we don't get our first payment for taxes. Our tax payment to us, it doesn't come till like January, February. And so with our fiscal year starting in October, we have to have that cash reserve to get us from October to that first payment.
Okay, perfect. But the general fund, if there's an allocation to go into the capital reserve fund, it's kind of a one-way door essentially. So once you put money into that account, you can't claw it back or anything, correct?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Other questions?
Sorry, one last question. There's no other funds, right? There's that aren't showing up on this, like the super duper secret.
Mr.
Cool.
Chair, Trustee.
Thank you.
No, there is not. It would make some of these other projects a lot easier if there were, but no, there is not. So what you see is what you get.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Perhaps a question for Nick. So in our last meeting, we had some discussion about some planned work around staffing model, for lack of a better word, some adjustments to the salary ranges and so forth. And we talked about the importance of that in keeping recruiting and retaining our staff, which is an important goal. My question is, will that plan come before the board as an item to be approved, or are we giving our approval for that with this budget?
Mr. Chair, Trustee, that's a very great question. So we need the budget to be published and the budget to be approved before we can then go about implementing those changes. And that would be through a salary schedule change overall. And that would come before the board in September based on the approval of the budget. And then we are looking at doing a board workshop in September to make it so that those numbers are explained in more detail, and we can go through it a little bit more in a workshop setting. So looking at doing that hopefully early September.
Thank you.
I've got a question, and this was covered in our last meeting, but I don't remember what it was. So on the operating expenses increase, there was an increase for consulting services of $108,000. Remind me what are we thinking that was going to go for?
The consulting services are for strategic plan and the comprehensive facility comprehensive plan.
Okay.
So, yes.
And then the Links Consortium monies, it's essentially a wash, right? It's coming into our as a revenue item, but most of it will go out.
Almost.
Other than our
Other
portion.
than our portion,
Right,
correct.
okay.
If you exclude our portion, then yes, it is
Okay.
it is a wash.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Destiny, if she had any questions, would be able to raise her hand and let us know. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. If there are no further questions or items for discussion, we'll move on to number 4, which is an action item to approve the amended fiscal year 2024 and proposed 25 budgets as ready to be published.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
real quick, just so that, because it jumped out at me and hopefully it didn't jump out at you because we explained it enough, but just want to double check that everyone, the finance proceeds piece that's down in the capital fund. The reason those numbers look different is because we had changed the model in which we are acquiring Pinnacle. So just so that everyone's clear on why those numbers are significantly different, it's just the mechanism with how we approached acquiring Pinnacle and allowed us to do it in the expedient way. So
Different from 2024 compared to
the
25?
approved versus the amended.
Yes, okay.
So just wanted to clarify that so that we're all on the same page.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Laura.
I move that we approve the amended fiscal year 24 and proposed fiscal year 25 budgets for publication.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
sorry,
Okay.
just a comment. I am prepared to support the motion. I am doing so with the understanding that the board will have an opportunity, as Nick described, to gain a good understanding of the plan for staffing and the salary ranges prior to those being implemented.
Yeah, and that is my intent too, that would be certainly an action item for a future meeting, not a blanket approval tonight. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And that brings us to the end of our meeting tonight at 7:18. Thank you, everybody.